And of course, this issue has been politicized from the beginning. We were told that there is no rush, and yet, in fact, there was a rush. From the beginning, we were told that this was going to be a 5-day session, and then it was extended, and now we're into our 3rd week. The governor, his hands are shaking. His pen is ready to sign as fast as he can so that we can beat Illinois. And we were told by the majority leader, no less, that there will be no compromise, no delay. And then we learned that after we pass this bill into law, we'll all get together and have town meetings and discuss it and meet at Zippy's. I'm all for that. That's good. Reminds me of another piece of legislation. After we pass it, we'll read it, and then we'll find out what it's all about and what the unintended consequences are. Well, how's that working out for you with Obamacare? This is not a partisan issue because we have leaders in both parties, in both houses, that have spoken in opposition. And yet those of us that do speak in opposition have been ridiculed, as have religious believers. We've been told basically that we're foolish. Other words were used, that our voices don't count. We were also told this morning that it is the hand of man that has bent the arc in a direction that man feels, or at least some men feel, and women, it should go. Not the hand of God, not the divinity that many of us still believe in, but man will bend that arc. We're also told, and we were told earlier, that we will hear from the people. My kudos go to the House, too, for their strength, for their patience, for their determination, and their strong bladders in all of the hearings. I believe it is incumbent upon all of us to listen to the people, to hear them, and then to act responsibly. And those of us that have different viewpoints, we have those viewpoints for various reasons. And you've heard many explanations this morning, none more important than another. But you've also heard the names of Martin Luther King and John Kennedy and others bandied about, and yet nowhere in my research have I found that any of these people came out for same-sex marriage. Love, yes. Compassion, yes. Equal rights, yes. As I had said a couple of weeks ago, and was reiterated by the good senator from Kapolei today, no court has ruled that marriage is a civil right. And yet we continue to try to change the language and try to make something and do something it is not. We have debated this issue, and we have learned from people their different viewpoints, but in the end, this is kind of like the situation in the Middle East over thousands of years. You can try to force people to do something that they don't believe in, but it doesn't make it so. I agree with all my colleagues, however, that raise the issue of civility and respect. I think that should be paramount. And there have been losses on both sides, not just one side, on both sides. And there are organizations from the mainland and other places that have helped both sides, not one side. We are told that this is the wave, that this is our future. And people, I think, are really surprised at the passion and the participation over the last couple of weeks here at our Capitol. Parenthetically, a ranking came out a week ago that listed the political and social involvement of people within a state. And Madam President, Hawaii ranked last, as we so often do in all national rankings. We ranked last in people participating. Well, obviously, that survey was done earlier than 3 weeks ago, because we've seen an outpouring of individuals at this Capitol like no other time in our history. I, for one, think it's a wonderful thing, from people from both sides, or three sides, or four sides, coming together and giving their point of view passionately, because of principle, because of what they believe in. I know that a lot of people do not understand, those in the religious community who have been so fervent in their opposition to this legislation. But walk in their shoes for just a moment. Look over the last 10 or 15 years. Look at our nation. Look at our state. Look at one by one our traditions and our values stripped away, usually in the courts, based on legislation that was passed in prior sessions. We are told not to be afraid, that nothing different is going to happen. It's not going to change our lives. And yet that's very naive, because we've seen in the past other legislation on other issues that in fact have changed our lives, have changed our values. And this is no exception. This will do many of the things that those who testified said it will do in terms of education, business, religion, and social conduct, because that is the aim of those folks who have continued over the decades to insist, unlike what was said earlier, to go where not just a question of not wanted, but not legally entitled to, until the laws were changed.